I get onto their site and they said, yeah, this is our operation. This is where they come in. We get them washed and then send them out. And I'm like, okay, well, how many do you have that you need me to do? And they're like, no, we want you to be here every day, 5 days a week and washing our bins. And at that point, it was just me. And so I'm looking at it and I'm like, this isn't what I'm ready to do and ready to jump at.
Once again, we're here inside of Trash Chatter. I'm your host, Victoria Conway, alongside John Walsh, owner of Octowash Bins. Happy to be discussing his adventure with cleaning 20,000 bins in a year and a half of business. It's been awesome to see, John. Appreciate you taking some time to join us. Been a long time coming. I wanted to have you on 6 months ago, but you were like, let's give it a little bit of time. So happy we're able to make it happen today.
Yeah.
So for you guys, you and your dad running this company, what was the first event that led you to start trash bin cleaning? Would you see it first? And what was that process like for you guys to make that decision to get into this business?
Well, it's been about 18 months that we've actually been operating. We launched in July of last year after getting our truck from you guys. But about 4 months before that, I had left my corporate job. I used to sell truck accessories and I left to take care of my kids. And my dad and I were talking and about what we should do when he retires. And jokingly, I sent this to him. And about 2 days later, he says, no, we need to do this now. We're not waiting. And so that was kind of where we hit that running. In about a month from when we decided to do that, we had found a truck and had set up with you guys to get it going down there. And it's all been, full speed ahead since then.
And you guys are one of the brave folks that took the trip from Miami all the way to Washington State. When folks, asked me, can I ship this? Can I drive it? You guys are one of the examples I use. What was that road trip back like for you two? Obviously having the truck, excited to get started, but that's about as cross country as it gets.
Yeah, I think that's about as far as you're going to drive. It was long. I had just come off of needing to get back to Spokane for my family. And so I did the whole drive in about 6 days. Didn't do any sightseeing, nothing, just driving. We went from, we drove all the way to Missouri, dropped my dad off, and then I drove the rest of the way here, and did the whole thing straight. Stopped and the only sightseeing I did is I stopped in South Dakota and visited another client of yours, Krusty's, and met him, just talked to him for, I guess maybe it was a half hour, 45 minutes. And that was about the longest time we'd stopped to that wasn't a hotel or a restaurant.
That was really neat to see you guys meet up with another client that also had a pickup truck model. So that was cool. That got a lot of reviews on the Facebook page. So you guys are definitely dedicated to get this started. And like you mentioned, you guys have been in business for 18 months. What has that 18 months been like? What was the start? I mean, July is a pretty decent time to begin this type of business, but you guys have probably also learned a lot in the 18 months. What has it been like in the year and a half you guys have been actually cleaning bins?
Well, the first 6 months, so our first year in 2023, we cleaned only about 700 bins, 715 to be exact. And it was kind of a slow start. We knew the first couple of years weren't going to be profitable years, and we weren't expecting anything. And in the first 6 months, we did, like I said, 715 bins. And then just like we were happy with that. And we're like, okay, this is starting to pick up. We're the only service in the area. Nobody within about 300 miles does this. And so we did that. And then we started the next year, starting trade shows. And then I get a phone call from a waste hauler and says, hey, we'd like to talk to you about coming out and cleaning some of our bins. And I'm thinking, okay, they've got 300-400 bins. We're going to go out there and get a nice dent and a nice start. And I get onto their site and they said, yeah, this is our operation. This is where they come in and we get them washed and then send them out. And I'm like, okay, well, how many do you have that you need me to do? And they're like, no, we want you to be here every day, 5 days a week and washing our bins. And at that point, it was just me. And so I'm looking at it and I'm like, this isn't what I'm ready to do and ready to jump at. So I'm like, okay, well, so I get from them, I was like, do you need me to come in here and just do a few and get you guys caught up and keep going? And they said, no, it's an all or nothing deal. It's you come in and do all of our bins, or you don't come in and do any of our bins. And so it was kind of scramble time at that point. We're like, okay, well, how do we do this? Because the whole point of us starting this was for me to take care of my family and keep my kids out of daycare. And so doing a 8-hour shift straight every day of the week kind of doesn't work for me. Um, Somewhere where I can't have a kid in the back seat of my truck. And so we started going to the drawing board, trying to figure out how can we do this without jeopardizing what we're trying to do as the business. And we came up with the idea of running the truck basically 10 to 12-hour days. So we drop, I've got a crew that just, it's early in the morning for us here. It's 5 a.m. And I've already got guys out there starting to clean bins. They get to that site at 5 a.m. and then we have to be out of their wash bay at 1:30. And then after that, I take it out and we do a residential route. So we've kind of got it set up where we're doing, full duty on this. And
That's honestly incredible, John, because I think, like you said, you get into it expecting to maybe run residential routes, pick up clients that way, and then all of a sudden you have this amazing opportunity in front of you. What was that process like trying to find a crew? Was it people you knew? Did you guys look through third parties? And how quickly did you get that together?
well, so we got that contract. We landed that we knew we were going to get it in April of this year. And so I hired 2 guys to run that crew, get them set up. It took almost 2 months for us to actually get on site and start cleaning at this facility. And it was a long process, back and forth, getting set up. How much is it going to cost them and everything. And then there's uh, a lot of contracts, verbiage that had to be gone over. There was even some talk about not being allowed to run a residential route if we're doing, exclusive for them. They said, maybe we don't know if we want you to touch our bins outside of there. And once that finally got resolved, we got in there about Memorial Day. I had 2 guys that had been running our residential route a little bit, so they knew how to clean, they knew how to operate the equipment. Um, and we went in with a way that we had anticipated on how to count and keep track of these bins, because I think that's the hardest thing we've dealt with on that site, is keeping track of cleaned bins. Because we're not only cleaning the bins there, we're repairing them. We're putting new lids on them. We're changing wheels if they're broken. If the whole body's broken, we're processing those for scrap for them. So there's a lot more than just cleaning bins that it turned into. And so the first 2 guys that I had in there were there for about 6 weeks, and we just couldn't keep a good track of numbers for them. And so we actually almost lost the whole contract because we um, couldn't verify the count that we had. And so eventually I ended up at that point, I went on and did the site myself for 6 weeks. Um, I had to let those guys go, and then trying to find people that we could trust, that nobody was concerned about how they were counting. And then the biggest thing we did at that point is we went in and re-engineered how we counted our bins. It used to be that we just counted them as they came off the truck. And the problem is that we were double counting, and, if something had to get rewashed and we didn't get it. So we had to re-engineer it. And then since then we've gone through 6 or 7 people, and finally I think I finally have a crew in there that is doing great. If the guy that my lead in there is actually somebody that worked with me years ago. He fell on hard times and ended up losing his job and called me and said, "Hey, are you looking for anybody?" And I said, yeah, come in here, let's talk. And he came in and he's been great. is starting to learn more things about the equipment and wants to get in there and do more and more on that, which is great. Um, and then just going through people that say they want to be there and then don't. As soon as they get in and see what the work is really about, they're like, yeah, this isn't for me. I had a lot of days where I had 1 day guys. I had days that people only made it 3 or 4 days. Um, and it was a rough time to get the right crew in there.
Some of the joys of being a small business owner is trying to find that proper personnel. But I'm glad after a couple months, it seems like you guys have really found a good rhythm. And we're here inside of Trash Chatter. I'm your host, Victoria Conway, alongside John Walsh, owner of Octowash Bins. It's something where you're learning different things with the industry. And with that being said, you find yourself in a completely different direction and why you got into this. How does the residential routes compare now, John, compared to this waste hauler contract? And are you okay with that if maybe waste hauling is just your bread and butter and maybe residential comes years down the road?
Well, I our anticipation this year was to push that residential. I want to be a 50-50 company. I want to have 50% of it in there and 50% of it out on a residential route. I don't want it to be so heavy that we're 100% relying on one customer. That's a tough, I mean, if something were to go, you lose everything. So we are pushing our residential route to try and grow that. It's definitely been, as everybody talks about, um, if it's a slow go, unless you find that catch that just takes off, it's usually a slow grind to get that residential, you know. Um, and we finally, early this year, we did find a good marketing company that was working for us, and and it actually pays off. They're getting us good ads going, getting us good leads coming in, and so that was taken off, and we were ready to spend more money, and then had to put a focus on our commercial business to grow. So we kind of had to, set that on autopilot and just do it just enough to make the word go out. But this year we're ready to really, really hit that hard and try and grow that residential route so that it can stand on its own.
You mentioned earlier that in your first 6 months, you did about 715 bins. Do you mind sharing with us now at a year and a half how many total bins you guys have conquered?
Well, I kept changing my goal throughout 2024, I got to a point that we hit 10,000 bins. We're like, okay, where do we go from here? And I said, okay, let's do 20,000. And so we did 20,000, and then, or I saw that 20,000 was on its way, and that there wasn't going to be any issues getting to that point. And I'm like, okay, where do we set this number to do that? And I set it at 20,715 bins to try and do 20,000 more than what we did last year. And we came up just a little shy of that. We were about 200 bins short of that goal, but we did break 20,000 bins in the calendar year, which is crazy. Um,
Amazing.
and I do have a goal of this next year doing 40,000, and I think it's possible. When you break it down for day, it doesn't look like that much, but when you look at 40,000 bins, you're like, wow. Um, because for me, 40,000 it's only 150 bins a day, and everybody we talk about, 150 bins, that's not that many. But then when you really look at it, that's a lot of bins. You know, it,
100%.
when you see one or two bins at a time, yeah, okay, you're like, okay. But when you see 150 or 1,000 dirty bins sitting in a pile, it's it's mind blowing. And so I mean, that's kind of what we went into at that, is having thousands of bins sitting there waiting for us. Getting to that point of getting through it, I mean, we get through their daily supply now. Every day they bring us more bins, and we get through it every single day. Um, and we're in a slow season for them, which is good because it's kind of, you know, eh, weather conditions for us kind of suck now to clean bins. We got an inch and a half of snow that showed up on the ground this morning that I wasn't expecting. And there's that white stuff on the ground. A lot of the guys that clean bins don't understand what that is.
Honestly, it's probably very daunting, and we have to make sure that our listeners and viewers know you guys are also doing this with an SP3, which is a single bin pickup. So I think that's amazing that you've done 40,000 bins with a single lift arm.
Yeah. Yeah. I do too. I think that is a big part of it. Cause I mean, you guys designed this truck to do, 75 to 100 bins, maintenance bins, that have been cleaned within the last month. And the bins that we're cleaning have been neglected and are just probably the worst bins that are out there. And to clean, 20 to 25 an hour with a single bin lifter it's a lot. We push that truck really hard. And it shows. There's a lot of things that we run into problems with it. I mean, I guess this has been 7 or 8 months. We blew up ahead. We've gone through 4 spray heads, um, and had to have them shipped back and forth. And you guys have been great with, when I need one, overnighting it to me, which it's a long ways, when we ship that across country, it's an expensive shipment. Um, you know, we talk about these heads being $4,000, and 10% of that is shipping it across the country. Um, and they're, it's kind of one of those things that if that's down, I mean, life sucks. I think that everybody should, if they get a chance to clean bins on the ground, go clean bins on the ground for a day. You'll respect that head a lot more.
Absolutely. It's a lot of hard work, a lot of intricate parts inside of it, and the fact that you guys are doing, 150 a day is remarkable. And like you said, it's not like these are maintenance cleans. So I think that shows a testament to what you guys are pushing the machine to do, what you guys are getting through. And obviously, even for you as an owner, having to jump on for those 6 weeks, it's not easy when you get that call like somebody just quit or somebody's sick today, and then you're scrambling to figure out how you're going to get through the day. When we first started talking, John, you said you got into this, to be with your family more, take care of your kids. How have they responded to the business, and how has that, impacted your everyday life with now the business blowing up, which is awesome. But obviously there's a lot of stresses that come with being busy.
My family has responded to this great. My kids jump in and want to run the truck and do that, which is nice when we get out to community events and touch of trucks and that both my boys know how to run our truck. Um, and they spend a lot of days with me in there. Um, we start our business early in the morning, and then I run it. I come home, pick up kids, and then go back to my shop. One of my kids stays with me all day. He's in my truck through the whole residential route. And then in the mornings before that, while that truck's still off at that waste site, we're in our shop, which, is another crazy thing to think that in a year after us being in business for a year that we've got our own shop. And that's accelerated us to get to have a shop and be able to do all of our repairs. Anything that we need to do, we try and jump in and do ourselves. But having my family there, is nice. And then it's challenging at times too. I mean, right after we dropped off our truck, my oldest was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, ended up in the hospital. Some of our first, your and my first messages when the truck was there was, I messaged you back. I said, this just got to wait. I'm dealing with family in the hospital, and your answer was, we're here when you need us. Let it take care of that. And this can, none of these answers that we need, we've got enough work to keep going. So that's been great that, with him going through that journey, I'm able to be there as much as I need to be, and, um, cause if I need to stop a route and run and get him or go take care of something on that, I can do that.
No, absolutely. I remember that for you guys, and it kind of puts everything to perspective of we get so stressed and worried about work, but what really matters is family and that coming first. And I think one of the beautiful things about being your own boss, like you said, when you need to attend to your family, you can, and the rest will figure itself out. Well, John, it's been amazing to see how much you guys have grown. It's great to see the pictures you guys post to our forums of all the bins. They do look very daunting at times, but to hear you guys, how you guys break it up, how you work as a team and get through them, it's truly an amazing story. And I hope in 2025 that commercial side continues to grow and the residential as well. I think that'll be exciting. And hopefully in a year from now, we can have you guys on and see if you hit that 40,000 target and how it's doing with the residential side.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for taking some time, John. Once again, John Walsh, owner of Octowash Bins out of Spokane, Washington. Thank you and your dad for all your support to Sparkling Bins. Looking forward to seeing what 2025 has in store for you guys. Thank you all for tuning in to Trash Chatter. We release episodes once a month. You can check them out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're an aspiring entrepreneur looking to start your own business and interested in cleaning some trash bins, make sure you click the link below for more information. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again next time.